Hi. Well, I guess we learned from this last election that our hope is not in politics, and it never has been. Our hope is in Jesus Christ alone. He is the solid rock upon which we stand and that we build our lives upon. We know who ultimately is in control and that His will is good for us, and He works all things together for good to those who love Him and to those who are called according to His purposes. I know many were expecting a red wave. They are putting their hope and their trust in this. And I wasn't, because I saw what happened in the last election. And who knows how many elections have been stolen. You see, many who don't worship Jesus Christ, they're worshiping Satan, who is the father of lies. And they will do anything to get their way. They'll lie, cheat, and steal. That's what Satan does. That's what his agents do. And I firmly believe that they stole the last election. It was clear. All the swing states closed at a certain time when President Trump was far ahead. And then it dragged on until the Democrats finally won. And it happened this time. The close races closed down. One place even shut off the lights so no one could see. And the Democrats are winning. And it's just the way they roll. They want to keep the Senate. They want to put Roe v. Wade codify it into law. They want little babies to be slaughtered in their mother's womb. They want to be able to harm children who don't think who want to be a dog or a cat or a girl or a boy. They want to have drag queens come into the schools. They want to teach and do whatever they feel is right. And so they're going to do whatever they can to accomplish their means. Now we have to remember that when Paul wrote his epistles, he was living under a very cruel, it wasn't king back then, I forget what they call them, but rulers. And he wrote to older women to teach the young women biblical womanhood in the perilous times in which he lived, the wicked times, the evil times. Women, life has mostly been wicked and evil since sin entered this world. Cain killed Abel. A brother killed his brother. God destroyed the earth because of complete wickedness during Noah's time. He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah over rampant fornication and sexual sin. So there's always been rampant, horrible sin in our world. It's nothing new that's happening today. In America was built upon biblical principles. In all of our capitals and on our money, in God we trust. There are signs that people at least acknowledge there was a God and that there was a morality, there was good versus evil. So we were blessed to be raised in a nation that had freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and it was an incredible experiment for 200 years, but it's leaving. As we can see, the left, who destroys everything they touch, is taking over because it's only a small remnant who loves God and His ways. Yes, I have neighbors who aren't believers, but they know right from wrong. They haven't been turned over to a reprobate mind yet. But evil is creeping, stalking. It's everywhere, and there's good reasons that God wants women to be at home. All of God's reasons are made so much more clear as our culture gets darker. Women are to be home, raising, protecting their children where their husbands are out in the workforce, providing for them. And as I've said a lot recently, that women were not created for the workforce. No, not even single women. We weren't created for the workforce physically or hormonally or mentally. We were created for the home as God has ordained. And so that's where we're to be. And so are our children. Our children are more vulnerable than we are even. And they're not created to be out in public schools or other schools where they're bullied and shown things that they shouldn't see, or being raised and taught by their peers who come from godless homes. We're to be raising our children in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. All of these become so clear as our culture grows dark. And men are the ones with the testosterone and the ability to go out there and endure the stress of the workforce and war and be police and firemen. And God created them to be the protectors and the providers of societies, the sustainers of societies, the builders of societies. We fill the societies with children, and women aren't doing a good job. In this last election, we saw that single women overwhelmingly voted Democrat and for abortion. This is why there's no red wave, besides the cheating, with the single women who, they just are going their own way and wanting their own things. And this is why God commands young women to marry, bear children, and guide the home. He knows that they need to be married. They need to be busy bearing children and raising them, and busy in the home, not going around gossiping or chattering or whatever they were doing back then, because back then there were no careers like there are today. But women need, and I know the many women in the workforce are on antidepressants because they are not doing what they're called to do. They can't bear up with the stress of the workforce, so they try to numb themselves with drugs, alcohol, whatever. And I'm here to teach young women to be content at home. There isn't life for you out there in the workforce. Your life is at home, and you're blessed if you get to be home and you have a hard-working, faithful husband. You are so incredibly blessed. You're meant to be home. We were created to be home. We were created to give life and raise those children to love Jesus and honor Him. Even as our culture grows darker, nothing changes about God's will. We're to go to solid biblical churches and learn in silence with all subjection, learn biblical womanhood from older women like me, who has been married for almost 42 years, raised 4 children, and now spends my life ministering to my grandchildren. And I see them a lot. I love to give my daughters and daughter-in-laws breaks so they can go out with their husbands or do whatever they want. I like to make their lives easier and minister to them when they're sick or whatever. That's what older women are called to do, to minister, not go out and work in the workforce. We're to minister to those we love and our neighbors. I love helping my neighbors whenever they need help, or anyone in the church. So we're valuable women. Just because feminists want to convince you that you're only valuable in the workforce if you're making money, that's such a big lie. We're far more valuable being helpmeets to our husbands, being mothers to our children, and being homemakers, feeding our children, our families healthy food, and taking care of our husbands. It's all so good. God's plan is so good. The older I get, the more I see this and the blessings abundant that flow. And all these older women who are coming out, who went the feminist path and bemoaning the fact that they didn't have children. These women are divorcing their husbands because they're not happy, or their husbands aren't meeting their emotional needs. It's all ridiculous. We fight for our marriages because marriage is good, and God ordained marriage for us. We have a man living in our home, in our lives, who is willing to provide and protect us. And this is a huge blessing. Never take that for granted, women. So love God's will. Don't put all of your hope in politics or even your vote. Like, so many women worship their vote, even though it means that Democrats are winning and abortion is becoming overwhelmingly available. No, that whole fight for our vote was a fight against God and His plan for women. So seek God and His word and His will in the Bible. Meditate on it. Go through my study guide. Give it to as many women as you can. Help rescue these single women who are going on the broad path that leads to destruction, and steer them on to the narrow path that leads to life. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.